If there's one group of naturally occurring vertebrate animals that you're probably familiar with, it's birds. Birds are all around us, whether you live in the city, in the suburbs, or in a rural area. You can see many different kinds of birds. So what exactly are birds, and what makes them unique? What are some of their characteristics, and what features enable them to fly? During the next few minutes, we're going to answer these questions and others as we explore the life of birds. What's the first thing you visualize when you think about birds? Most likely, you envision an animal with feathers and wings that can fly. These are key characteristics common to most birds. Birds are one of only 4 groups of animals that have mastered the amazing ability to fly. A bird's entire body is adapted for flight. And while not all birds fly, they do all share several common characteristics. Most birds have a body plan consisting of a head, neck, trunk, and tail. Their bodies are relatively spindly shaped and light. Birds possess 2 pairs of limbs. The forelimbs are wings used for flying. Wings are slightly curved from front to back, and they're thicker in the front. This shape helps produce lift during flight. You compare. Look at this goose. What's the role of its hind limbs compared to its forelimbs? The forelimbs are used for flying, but the hind limbs are adapted for both walking and swimming. The hind limbs of birds are designed for walking or swimming, perching, and even catching prey, depending on the particular species. This peacock possesses many beautifully colored feathers. What exactly are feathers? Feathers are lightweight, flexible, durable structures that cover the bodies of birds. Believe it or not, feathers are thought to have evolved from reptilian scales. They protect and insulate the bird's body and create the shape necessary to generate lift for flight. Feathers are constantly being lost and replaced with new ones. In some cases, feathers also play a role in attracting mates. Quite often, males and females in the same species have different colored feathers. Most often, the male is brighter than the female, as is the case with cardinals. While there are several different types of feathers, we'll discuss 2 main types: contour feathers and down feathers. Contour feathers have a stiff main shaft with many side branches called barbs. Each barb possesses interlocking barbules that cling to each other and make the feathers strong. When birds preen themselves, they're actually zipping together barbs that have become separated. Down feathers are different types of feathers that cover the bodies of young birds, such as these chicks. Down feathers have short shafts with tufts of long, fluffy barbs. These types of feathers are also found at the base of contour feathers in adult birds and help to insulate their body. An oil gland near the base of the tail helps to make feathers waterproof. Many birds use their beaks or bills to take oil from the gland and spread it over their feathers to help repel water. A characteristic common to most birds is a strong, lightweight skeleton. The bones of birds tend to be thin and hollow. Such hollow bones are said to be ossified. Many bones are fused or joined together, making the skeleton stronger per volume, thus reducing overall weight. Attached to the skeleton are powerful muscles. Muscles in the breast are particularly thick and strong, enabling birds to powerfully flap their wings. One of the special characteristics of birds is their ability to maintain a relatively constant body temperature. Endothermic animals such as birds and mammals have this ability. In other words, regardless of the outside temperature, the internal core body temperature remains constant. Because birds are endotherms, they can remain very active in a very cold environment, unlike reptiles and amphibians. The activity of flying and the process of maintaining a constant body temperature require large quantities of energy. To meet their energy needs, birds must eat and efficiently process lots of food. A hummingbird, for example, needs to eat 5 times its body weight each day. Imagine eating 5 times your body weight every day. When birds eat, food passes from the mouth to an enlarged part of the esophagus called the crop. Here, food is stored and softened. Food then passes to the gizzard, where it's ground up into a pulp. The gizzard is a muscular organ that often contains small stones used to break food into pieces. From the gizzard, food then travels to the intestine, where nutrients are absorbed. The excretory system of birds is designed to conserve water from body wastes. So urine is excreted in a non-watery pasty form. Birds don't have a urinary bladder to store liquid water. That's a modification that helps reduce weight for flight. Birds have a 4-chambered heart, high blood pressure, and a rapid heartbeat. The heart of this chickadee, for example, beats 1,000 times a minute, compared to the 70 to 80 beats per minute of the human heart. These circulatory features enable body cells to receive large amounts of oxygen and carry out a high metabolic rate. Air passes through the lungs and a system of air sacs that extend throughout the body, even to the hollow spaces inside bones. In the lungs, oxygen comes in contact with the bloodstream. Birds possess a well-developed nervous system with a large brain that has the ability to control the complex muscular movements of flight. While most birds have a poorly developed sense of smell and taste, many have a well-developed sense of sight, hearing, and balance. A hawk, for example, can hear and see a mouse scurrying in a field from a great distance in the sky. At one time or another, perhaps you've heard birds singing in the spring, seen birds building a nest, or seen them settling on a nest full of eggs. You decide. What's the purpose of all these activities? All these things are tied to producing young. Birds reproduce via internal fertilization and produce amniotic eggs. The eggs produced by chickens are examples of amniotic eggs. Eggs are laid at a relatively early stage in development, thus eliminating the need to carry heavy eggs in flight. Eggs contain various materials, including albumin and yolk, that provide nourishment to the developing embryo. To mature, eggs need to be incubated, kept at a constant warm temperature while the embryo inside develops. Birds do this by sitting on the nest to keep the eggs warm for many days to months. Most baby birds depend on their parents for food. During the early stages of development, parents spent a large part of their time gathering food for their young. Many young birds grow rapidly and quickly develop the ability to live on their own within a period of weeks. Other species of young birds, however, may spend much longer periods of time with their parents. Scientists estimate that birds began to evolve from reptiles about 225 million years ago. In Texas, in the mid-1980s, a bird-like vertebrate fossil was found called Protoavis. This small bird possessed both reptilian and bird-like features and is thought to be an intermediary bridge between reptiles and birds. The earliest bird fossil known to possess feathers is Archaeopteryx, which scientists think lived 150 million years ago. It's the oldest known bird. During the next several million years, birds evolved into a vast, diverse group. Birds today still possess many reptilian features, including the presence of scales on their legs and skin. Throughout the world, birds live high in trees, on the ground, and they even swim underwater. There are nearly 9,000 known bird species. Scientists have cataloged the many species into orders. Some examples of the larger orders with which you may be familiar include Passeriformes, the songbirds that make up over half of all bird species. Piciformes include birds such as toucans and woodpeckers. Charadriiformes include auks, gulls, plovers, sandpipers, and terns. The order Falconiformes includes birds such as eagles, falcons, hawks, and vultures. And the order Anseriformes includes ducks, geese, and swans. These are just a few examples of the wide array of bird orders. Birds carry on many vital ecological roles. Some, such as hummingbirds, are important pollinators. After consuming fruits, birds help disperse intact seeds through their feces. Birds also occupy key roles in different parts of the food chain. While many are strict herbivores, some eat other animals. This falcon, for example, is eating a pigeon, and these gannets consume fish from the sea. In turn, birds are often preyed upon by other animals, such as mammals and snakes. For thousands of years, birds have served as an important source of food for humans. We commonly eat birds such as turkey and chicken. We also eat eggs and cook with them. Bird watching is a very popular hobby throughout the world. One of the most fascinating characteristics of birds that interest enthusiasts is bird behavior. Birds exhibit a wide and varied range of behaviors, many of which are odd and fascinating. You observe. Describe this bird behavior. This male peacock is displaying his colorful feathers. It's an example of courtship behavior. Some of the most interesting kinds of behaviors relate to courtship. Most courtship behaviors have evolved to enable birds to locate and select mates. These male frigate birds, for example, inflate a balloon-like throat pouch and sound a loud cry to attract females. Many birds exhibit courtship displays to continually bond them throughout the breeding and nesting process. Nesting behaviors, including the building and maintenance of the nest, are other examples of bird behavior. While many birds remain in the same place year-round, others make annual migrations in the spring and fall to places where it's more favorable for them to survive. In the northern hemisphere, birds tend to migrate south in the fall and then migrate north in the spring. These incredible birds, called red knots, migrate amazing distances, thousands of kilometers every spring and fall between the southern tip of South America and the Arctic. It's amazing that these small birds can make such a great journey in just a couple of weeks without losing their way. During the past few minutes, we've explored some of the fascinating features of birds. We began by highlighting the key characteristics which enable them to fly, including feathers, wings, and a lightweight skeleton. Some of the internal structures and processes were highlighted. The major features of the digestive and respiratory system were explained. We briefly explored the important aspects of the nervous system. Next, the common stages of the bird life cycle were investigated, including the development of the embryo in an amniotic egg. We briefly discussed the origin of birds and highlighted some of the major orders of birds. We talked about why birds are important. And finally, we investigated some of the fascinating features of bird behavior. Fill in the correct word to complete the sentence. Number 1. In birds, the forelimbs form structures called. Number 2. The bodies of birds are covered with. Number 3. Feathers cover the bodies of young birds. Number 4. The bones of birds tend to be thin and. Number 5. Birds are, meaning they maintain a constant body temperature. Number 6. The muscular digestive organ called the often contains small stones. Number 7. The embryos of birds develop in. Number 8. Is the earliest known bird, dating back 150 million years. Number 9. Birds are thought to have evolved from. And number 10. Behaviors enable birds to locate and select mates.